Today's lecture will cover the second part of the market revolution. The market revolution altered the fabric of American life in profound ways, affecting not only the economy but also social hierarchies, family dynamics, cultural identities, and labor systems. As we examine this transformative era, we will discuss key developments such as technological advancements, westward expansion, the rise of new labor systems, the growth of cities, and the influx of European immigrants. Additionally, we will explore the social impacts of these changes on different groups, from factory workers to women, African Americans, and the emerging middle class. Let's begin by looking at the concept of internal migration during this period and how it shaped the development of cities and Western territories. The market revolution was a catalyst for unprecedented internal migration within the United States. Many rural Americans faced economic challenges due to changing agricultural practices and sought better opportunities in urban centers or on the western frontier. This migration reshaped the demographic and economic landscape of the country, turning small towns into bustling cities and sparsely populated territories into thriving agricultural hubs. As the market revolution took hold, traditional farming methods became less profitable. Improvements in farming techniques and machinery meant that small-scale farmers who relied on older, labor-intensive methods could not compete with more efficient commercial farms. For example, the advent of John Deere's steel plow in 1837 allowed farmers to cultivate the tough soil more easily, but not all farmers could afford such advancements. As a result, many were forced to abandon their farms and seek employment elsewhere. At the same time, the rise of industrialization created demand for wage labor in cities. Factories, which produced goods like textiles, shoes, and tools, needed workers to operate machinery. This shift from an agrarian economy to an industrial one drew many people away from rural areas and into cities, where jobs were more plentiful, if often poorly paid. Cities like Lowell, Massachusetts, and New York City became magnets for people seeking work in the new industrial economy. In Lowell, for example, the textile mills employed large numbers of young women, known as mill girls, who came from rural areas to earn wages. These women lived in company-owned boarding houses and worked long hours in the mills. But the wages they earned allowed them a degree of independence that was rare for women at that time. The factories in cities like Lowell were symbolic of the broader transformation in labor, where individuals began to work for wages rather than on family farms. The rise of wage labor and industrial jobs also attracted male workers, who took on roles in factories, construction, and transportation. The expansion of the railroad industry in particular created numerous jobs for men who helped lay tracks, operate trains, and maintain the infrastructure that facilitated the movement of goods across the country. While many Americans moved to cities, others ventured westward in search of land and new opportunities. The availability of cheap land in the Old Northwest and the Old Southwest attracted settlers looking to establish farms and communities. This movement was facilitated by improvements in transportation such as canals and railroads, which made it easier for people to travel long distances and trade their goods in national markets. The federal government played a key role in encouraging westward expansion. After the War of 1812, conflicts with Native American tribes east of the Mississippi River had largely subsided, making it safer for settlers to move into these territories. The government also passed policies that made land more affordable for settlers. For instance, under the Land Act of 1820, settlers could purchase 80 acres of land at a price of $1.25 per acre. This affordability made it possible for even small farmers to acquire land and establish homesteads in the West. The attractiveness of fertile land, especially for farming cash crops like wheat and cotton, drew thousands of settlers westward. By 1860, millions of people had migrated to the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, and the Mississippi River Basin, transforming what had once been sparsely populated frontier territories into thriving agricultural regions. For many, this westward migration represented the promise of economic independence and a fresh start. Among the cities that flourished during the market revolution, Chicago stands out as a prime example of rapid urban growth. Founded in 1830, Chicago's strategic location between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River made it a vital transportation hub. The city's access to major waterways and its development of crucial rail lines allowed it to become a center for manufacturing, meat packing, and retail distribution. Chicago's central location meant that goods from the Midwest could easily be shipped to eastern markets, fueling its growth into one of the largest cities in the United States by 1860. By the mid-19th century, Chicago had grown from a small trading post into a bustling metropolis with over 100,000 residents. The city's rise was emblematic of the broader trend of urbanization that characterized the market revolution. As transportation networks expanded and cities became interconnected, Chicago emerged as a key player in the national economy, providing a model for other cities looking to capitalize on their geographic advantages. The rapid expansion of Western frontier also led to land speculation, as investors sought to profit from the rising demand for land. Stories of fertile soil in places like Alabama and Mississippi attracted speculators who bought up large tracts of land with the hope of selling them at a profit. However, this speculative frenzy also contributed to economic instability. The Panic of 1819 and the Panic of 1837 were both triggered, in part, by land speculation. During these economic downturns, land prices collapsed, leaving many speculators and settlers unable to sell their land or repay their loans. As a result, widespread bankruptcies and foreclosure occurred, highlighting the risks of speculation in an economy increasingly driven by market forces. While some individuals and families lost everything in these economic downturns, others were able to take advantage of the low land prices that followed. For those who could survive the financial storms, the West remained a land of opportunity where they could establish farms, raise families, and build communities. For many settlers, westward migration was about more than speculation. It was about survival and building a better life. Families who purchased small parcels of land focused on subsistence farming, growing enough food to feed their families while selling any surplus in nearby markets. As transportation networks improved and markets expanded, many of these small farms evolved into commercial enterprises producing cash crops that could be sold in distant cities. The fertile soil of the Midwest made it an ideal region for farming, and many settlers found success growing crops like wheat and corn. Over time, the Midwest became known as the breadbasket of the nation, supplying food to urban centers in the East and driving the growth of the national economy. While internal migration reshaped the American landscape, the market revolution also attracted millions of immigrants from Europe. These immigrants, fleeing economic hardship, political instability, and social upheaval in their home countries, came to the United States in search of better opportunities. The influx of European immigrants transformed American society, introducing new cultures, traditions, and labor forces into the growing industrial economy. During the early 19th century, Europe experienced significant demographic and economic changes that contributed to the wave of immigration to the United States. Improvements in farming and sanitation reduced epidemics and famines, leading to a population boom across the continent. Between 1750 and 1850, Europe's population doubled, creating increased competition for land jobs, and resources. At the same time, changes in agricultural practices displaced many tenant farmers. Landlords in countries like Ireland and Germany consolidated their holdings and introduced new machinery, pushing small farmers off the land. These displaced peasants, facing economic hardship and limited opportunities at home, looked to America as a land of opportunity where they could start anew. The largest group of immigrants to arrive in the United States during this period came from Ireland, where the potato famine of 1840s caused widespread starvation and death. The potato blight, a disease that devastated the potato crop, left millions of Irish peasants without their primary source of food. As famine swept through Ireland, over 1 million people fled to America, seeking refuge from hunger and poverty. Most Irish immigrants settled in northeastern cities like New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, where they found work in factories, construction, and other low-paying jobs. However, life in America was far from easy for the Irish. They often lived in overcrowded tenement buildings, faced discrimination from native-born Americans, and struggled to make ends meet. Anti-Catholic sentiment further fueled prejudice against the Irish, who were viewed by some as a threat to American values and economic stability. Despite these challenges, Irish immigrants made significant contributions to the American economy, particularly in the construction of railroad, canals, and other infrastructural projects. Over time, many Irish families were able to improve their economic standing and integrate into American society, though they continued to face discrimination well into the 20th century. The second largest group of immigrants during the Market Revolution came from Germany. Like the Irish, many Germans faced economic hardships due to land consolidation and debt. However, German immigrants were a more diverse group, including not only impoverished peasants but also artisans, intellectuals, and political refugees. The failed democratic revolution of 1848 in Europe led many Germans, particularly intellectuals and political activists, to flee to the United States in search of freedom and stability. These 48ers, as they were known, brought with them a commitment to liberal ideals and a desire to participate in American democracy. German immigrants tended to settle in the Midwest, where they established ethnic communities in cities like Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Chicago. These communities built schools, churches, and social organizations that preserved their culture while helping them integrate into American society. German immigrants pursued a wide range of occupations, from farming to craftsmanship to retail, and their contributions helped shape the economic and cultural landscape of the Midwest. Immigrants from Britain made up the third largest group during this period. British immigrants, due to their linguistic and cultural similarities to native-born Americans, often integrated more easily into society than other immigrant groups. Many British immigrants brought valuable skills in manufacturing and trade, contributing to the growth of American industry. Smaller numbers of immigrants also came from Scandinavian countries and Canada, adding to the diverse mosaic of antebellum America. These immigrants, like their Irish and German counterparts, sought better economic opportunities and a chance to build new lives in the rapidly expanding American economy. The influx of immigrants combined with internal migration fueled the rapid growth of American cities. Urbanization was one of the most significant social changes of the Market Revolution, transforming cities from small ports into bustling centers of commerce, industry, and culture. In 1790, there were only 24 towns in the United States with population over 2,500 people. By 1860, that number had grown to nearly 400. Cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Boston became major hubs for trade and industry, attracting people from all over the country and the world. Urban centers like Lowell, Massachusetts, which began as small towns, rapidly extended due to the rise of factories and industrial jobs. Lowell, for example, grew from a village of just 200 people to a city of 37,000 by 1860, as textile mills drew workers from rural areas and immigrants from abroad. As cities grew, so did the divide between social classes. In the early years of urbanization, wealthier residents lived close to their workplaces, often in large homes near the center of the city. Poorer residents, including factory workers and immigrants, lived in cramped, overcrowded tenement buildings, often located in the alleys and the back streets behind wealthier neighborhoods. As industrialization progressed, however, wealthier city dwellers began moving to the suburbs where they could enjoy a more peaceful, semi-rural lifestyle while still commuting to work in the city. The invention of horse-drawn streetcars and buses allowed people to live farther from their workplaces, leading to the creation of a distinct residential and commercial areas within cities. Downtown areas became the centers of commerce and business, while residential neighborhoods and factories spread outward. This separation of work and home life represented a fundamental change in how people lived, as the physical distance between workplaces and residences grew. The economic changes of the market revolution had a profound impact on women's roles in society, particularly in the middle class. As men increasingly left home to work in factories, offices, and businesses, the home became the domain of women, who were expected to manage household affairs and raise children. This division of labor between the public and private spheres gave rise to the cult of domesticity, which idealized women as the moral guardians of the home. In the middle-class households, women were responsible for creating a comfortable and orderly home environment. The physical layout of homes changed to reflect this new reality, with public spaces like parlors and dining rooms becoming more elaborate and private family spaces becoming more distinct. Middle-class women spent much of their time engaged in domestic tasks such as cooking, cleaning, sewing, as well as hosting social events and participating in charitable activities. However, the cult of domesticity was largely limited to middle and upper class women. Working class women, particularly immigrants, often had to work outside the home to support their families. Many women worked in factories, textile mills, or as domestic servants, taking on jobs that were physically demanding and poorly paid. Despite the idealization of women's roles within the home, economic necessity forced many women to participate in the labor force, blurring the lines between public and private spheres. While market revolution brought economic opportunities to many Americans, it also exposed deep racial inequalities. As the free black population grew, particularly in the North, African Americans faced systemic discrimination that limited their access to education, employment, and legal rights. Free African Americans were often excluded from skilled trades and professional occupations, while artisans and labor unions frequently refused to train or hire black workers, forcing many African Americans into low-paying menial jobs. Despite these barriers, some African Americans found success as business owners, teachers, or ministers, though they often had to work harder to overcome racial prejudice. In many northern cities, free African Americans established their own communities and institutions such as schools, churches, and mutual aid societies to support one another. These institutions provided social and financial support, helping African Americans navigate the challenges of discrimination and segregation. Many free African Americans played a key role in the abolitionist movement, advocating for the end of slavery and supporting runaway slaves through the Underground Railroad. Figures like Frederick Douglass, who escaped from slavery and became a leading voice for abolition, used public speaking and writing to raise awareness about the horrors of slavery and push for social change. African American communities in the North also provided support for fugitive slaves, offering safe houses, jobs, and protection from slave catchers. These efforts were crucial in helping enslaved individuals escape to freedom and contributed to the growing national debate over the future of slavery in the United States. The social and economic upheavals of the market revolution also gave rise to a variety of reform movements. As Americans grappled with the consequences of rapid industrialization, urbanization, and economic inequality. As wage labor became more common, workers began organizing for better wages, shorter hours, and safer working conditions. Early labor unions, such as the National Trades Union, advocated for the rights of workers and pushed for laws to protect laborers from exploitation. The growing divide between the free labor North and the slaveholding South fueled the abolitionist movement, which called for the immediate end of slavery. Abolitionists, both black and white, used pamphlets, newspapers, public lectures, and petitions to spread their message and pressure Congress to take action against slavery. As industrialization brought new social challenges, such as alcohol abuse and poverty, reformers launched temperance movement, which sought to reduce or eliminate the consumption of alcohol. Temperance advocates believed that alcohol was the root cause of many social problems, and they organized campaigns to encourage Americans to abstain from drinking. The market revolution also laid the groundwork for the women's rights movement, as women began to push for greater political and social equality.